Welcome to the Public Sector AI Week for 2025, and I'm quite excited to share with you this interesting topic of data management and governance in the age of AI. I like to bring to bear some of the ideas I've seen in the private sector and my own practice in the space, and almost capture how AI is introducing new complexity and opportunities into the space of data management. I think I must also say that um, though this talk is targeted for the public sector, the private sector and the public sector have some things in common and can exchange ideas. So I'm hoping you benefit from some of the shares in this presentation, even though they are in different sectors. So to begin with, I like to share a bit about myself. My name is Emmanuel Asimadi. I have nearly 2 decades of experience in data, and I've seen data, technology, and people, processes work together very well to drive significant business outcomes. And I think that data management is one of the significant force multipliers in the space of what you do with data and creating value from data. So my passion is in enabling businesses to take advantage of data and use that data to drive their competitive advantage, create value, and see what they can do with the data that they have. I draw from these experiences of working between IT, technology, and the business to drive new outcomes and value for the business. You can feel free to reach me on Asimadi on LinkedIn. I'm also available for new engagements as a consultant or a leader in the space. Okay. So today, what I'd like to cover and time permitting is to almost share on on what the case is for rethinking what we do in data management and governance, given the new transformation we are seeing and the significant AI applications that are coming up. I also touch briefly on data as an asset and pose the question whether you are treating it as an asset or just paying lip service to treating data as an asset. And also you get to the space where if you are treating it as an asset, then it starts to inherit the properties of other assets like people, finance, and material. And so you can use that analogy to treat data as a better, or to treat it in a better way. I also draw out some of the differences in data as an asset compared to other assets to inform how you manage it. And so that's also an interesting part of the conversation. We go further to look at what are the drivers, or what was the impact of AI on data management and governance. And that explores the complexity it poses as well as the opportunities it presents. And then finish with the benefits that you can expect. And some of this are already known, and I'm just recapping them, providing the new context that AI is injecting into an already existing and well-established practice of management and governance. Okay. So I start with almost a comical data management and AI conundrum that data analytics and AI professionals do not care about data management, because they tend to see it as impediment or a limitation of their practice. Okay. And they see a lot of it as hurdles and unnecessary bottle or bureaucracy to creating value from data. In the other vein, you have data management professionals do not care about analytics. For them, they care more about the risk element. And if that risk mitigation means that the data is not used at all for value creation, and that presents zero risk, that is what they would prefer. Okay. So that has been a traditional viewpoint. But the world we want to create is not these two disjointed, almost conflicting worlds, is that data management should actually enable AI and analytics and do so safely. Okay, so you do not want, you want to be in a world where I think you can have two approaches to data management. One that is defensive and the other that is offensive. I look at it from more the offensive viewpoint that data management is there to enable value from data first, and safety and compliance are necessary and should be there by design and not the focus of your data management effort. Okay. So done right, we say that data management is an enabler. It enables you and your organization to treat data as an asset, and that's providing you with the competitive advantage. And if you look at it, there is I list also some of the drivers for rethinking how we do data management and governance in the age of AI. And these are a couple of them, and some of which I touch on how we do that later. So I think the first element is that the rise of AI itself is one of the reasons why we are here rethinking how we do management and governance. And the popular adage is that garbage in, garbage out. So your very expensive AI model can fail because you have not put your data in the right shape or place. And doing so wrongly does not only fail on the basis that you have wasted your money, but can also fail on the basis that your outputs are causing reputational damage to your organization and other elements. The other factor that is driving the rethink of data management is the rise of unstructured data. And today, the multimodal capabilities of AI, that AI can now consume voice, can consume unstructured data like text, video, programming code, and all this unstructured data that were usually not in scope for data management, or not as compared to structured data, means that data management, if your data management capability was not focusing on unstructured data, it now needs to focus on unstructured data because it's now becoming the data that a lot of the AI applications are using, less so your structured data, which is easier to manage. And here there are things like how you tag your data, how you version your unstructured data now become very important. You can recall scenarios where you are trying to build an information retrieval system for your employees or for your customers, and that system is using obsolete data because you have not versioned your data right. And that can be, depending on your industry, that can be problematic. There are also scenarios where you are you have not classified your data right. And so in your information retrieval systems, you are exposing sensitive data to your audiences. And for those who are in highly regulated industries, that is a very significant problem to have. So the point there is that because unstructured data is now becoming a significant data category than before, your data management efforts now have to look in that space and do the difficult work of managing unstructured data in a better way if they were not doing that before. The other interesting element is that there's governance for our AI models. Okay, so there's now the requirement to govern AI itself, and that is becoming more complicated in terms of ensuring that your models are fair, they are compliant, and then evaluating even the accuracy of the models to meet the needs that they are serving, and doing so impartially as well. There are also opportunities in the reverse direction, that the rise of these new AI capabilities could benefit governance itself. So you can now rethink, how can my governance processes use AI to be more efficient, more intelligent, and do things that we couldn't do before. I touch on this in some of my subsequent slides, looking at the drawing from the Dharma knowledge areas and trying to see how can we apply AI to the different knowledge areas and rethink how we release value from data. Okay. Then the other interesting piece is that there is now the ability of AI models to consume data. Okay, so we now need to think about how we position data, not only for the consumption of humans, but also for the consumption of machines. And this is quite powerful, to be able to do your metadata or your context of your data in a way that is not only enabling humans, but it is also enabling machines. So if you did think about democratizing data to your employees or your staff, or Now you have the ability to democratize data to machines. And what you can do with that, and with the ability of machines to scale your insights and actions, you have a significant value generator from that space as well. Now we touch on data as an asset, and I almost assume biblical connotations that you should do onto data, what you will do onto finance, people, equipment, and other assets. So if we all agree that data is an asset, then we should treat it as such. And now start to think of other assets and the properties they have that we should inherit, or yeah, we should inherit into data as an asset and treat data in a similar way to be leveraged for business benefit. So I try to draw on a couple of things that are inherent in assets and should be applied to data as well if we are not already applying them to data, so that if we say data is an asset, then it should be managed. That's the first point. So you see the way you have HR for managing people, the finance department for managing money. There needs to be the management of data, and we should be deliberate about it and think about how we manage data throughout its life cycle, from the point of creation through its storage to use to the point of archiving or deleting the data. It ought to be managed and not be an afterthought. Then, because it is an asset, you can imagine that you should have an inventory, just like you have an inventory of your material or people. Data is an asset, and for that reason, must have an inventory. And this is quite interesting. So, if you can think of having a data inventory, it is the beginning of knowing the assets you have and how you can leverage it. So it goes to the final point that being an asset means that you have to position it in a way that the business is leveraging it for value. And so you should be able to use your data to create value for the business. And the value creation can be anything from how you position your organization to take strategic to be competitive, or something that creates monetary value and is money in the bank, to anything that is be enabling cost efficiency. And in the public sector, that is quite of importance as well, that you are doing stuff in a very efficient way. The interesting thing about data, and we touch on that later in the slide, is also that the value of data comes from its use. So if you don't not leverage your data, then the value of it could be zero or even negative. Okay. So having touched on what data as an asset could inherit from other assets, in this slide, I'm trying to touch on how this data asset is different from other assets. So in some vein, it is the same as other assets. In other veins as well, it is entirely different. And by understanding how it is different from other assets informs what we do with it differently, and enable it to perform better with its own unique characteristics. So I touch on that. Data is non-depletable. It doesn't deplete with use. So unlike other assets like materials and money, where once you use it, it depletes, data does not deplete with use. Data is non-tangible as well. It means that it's not physical. You cannot touch it, and that poses different questions to its management. That the fact that it is abstract means you have to manage it differently. It means that you take a concept of ownership, for example, and you see that data being abstract means that the way you own it and work with it can be challenging. It can take different shapes or forms and have multiple owners, for example. And so who should be the owner of your data without overlaps is one of the questions we grapple with as we try to find or govern data. Its value comes from its use. So you can have all the data in the world. If you are not using it to create value, then you almost, it becomes then a cost center. Okay. So data as an asset is interesting in the fact that the value of it is not in having it, but it's in issues. And the other interesting point in this area is that depending on how you use it, the value is counted. So if you have data that you are using for dashboarding and reporting, that enables a certain value. If you have data and that same data you are using to create a machine learning model and powering actions in your applications, can drive a different, potentially more significant value as well. So having data and not using it could create negative value, and how you use it can create the different types of values that you have. It means that it presents the complexity of trying to understand or almost put a number to the value of the data that you have. And that's a pretty interesting place to be, that you cannot just say, I have X amount of data and the value of that data is Y, because that value is determined by what you do with the data, and it's quite difficult to quantify. There are approaches that you can think about to enable you almost guess what you think the value of your data is, but a lot of it is reliant on what you do with the data and not the data itself. And that's an area that is quite interesting. I can think of it that you can have data and say this is the value on that data, and also have another measure that says if we can do other things with that data which we are not doing today, then the potential value is different, and that can drive what you do with the data. But all of this is driven by having the inventory in the first place and understanding from the perspective of your internal data and the potential external data that you have, what you could be doing to create value for your business. That's one perspective of value creation from data. Usage of data produces more data, and that's another interesting one, where you are saying that unlike other assets where their usage causes them to deplete. If you take money, for example, you use and it reduces. Maybe in some cases, if you invest wisely, your money will create more money. But for most other assets, the usage means that you are not reproducing the same assets again. You are usually consuming it. With data, you can consume and then create more data. That informs that the fact that your data consumers are almost data producers as well in a number of the cases. So when you are structuring your data consumption and data producer patterns, you are aware of the notion that the use of data produces more data as well. Data is durable, so it does not wear and tear, unlike other assets, even though its value changes with time as well. And I call out, interestingly, that data has a half-life. So that you want to understand its half-life so that you are using it at the point where it is most valuable. This is borrowing from nuclear physics terminology, that these assets have a certain point where their value is highest, and that value decreases quickly over time to almost zero. And there's also the interesting point that data can be stolen without being lost, that because it is not physical, you have this interesting scenario where your data is stolen, but the way it is, that has its form or structure hasn't changed, or where you have stored it hasn't changed. Unlike if it was money or any other physical assets, that when it is stolen, you see that it is missing and therefore it is stolen. Data can be stolen without being lost. And that poses a new question on how you protect it and your security posture and thinking, or the complexity of dealing with data security, for example. It's difficult to reproduce when it is destroyed. And also you have the point also that data has multi-use, that the data can be used by different teams differently and even done simultaneously, I think. So on this, the point is that data has properties that are different from other assets. How can we use this understanding to better manage data and create value from the data? That we understand that data has multi-use means that we have to think, for example, about the different uses across different domains and ensure that we have management abilities to enable that data to be shared across different domains, for example. That data is has a half-life, means that we should think about it. It's a value over time and make sure we are using it at the point where it is most valuable, and continue that type of thinking. Here I call out some of the important AI-driven data management trends, beyond the foundational things that we know about data. The first one is the rise of data products. This interesting and rising phenomenon of data products, which I see as a combination of treating data as a product and data management practices. So you look in one vein that we want to treat data as a product that has business support, business sponsorship through to its delivery, and think about how it is used post delivery, and continuous improvement post delivery, including managing how we end or retire it. Okay. And then the second breadth of it is how we apply the rigor of data management to the areas like quality, metadata, and all that. And we come with the concept of data product management. Okay. So that's becoming a very important and key topic, and is how we think about data as a product with all the complexities, but delivering value to the business and also serving the needs of the customers, inheriting all the properties of a good product. Okay. The other trend in there is also the need to manage AI itself. And so data management now has to concern itself with how it manages AI models to ensure that they are compliant. In this space as well, you have to deal with the complexity and the new knowledge for your professionals in data management to be able to cope with the questions that AI models pose. You also, I mean, aside dealing with ML, you are now dealing with more sophisticated algorithms as well. So you have those significant questions to deal with. In this space as well, there is the interesting question of whether you deal with the management and the governance of AI separate from how you do data. I think that they should be together, and that is fuel from the fact that they have a lot of overlaps, and trying to separate them can create complexity to the management of your data and AI. So I belong to the school of thought that will like to treat them as one entity, deriving value from or synergies from data management and AI governance and management. The other element or trend that is also interesting is the fact that we want to apply AI to data management and governance. There is also the rise of unstructured data and the complexity it brings to the management practice, that now videos and text documents that you usually apply light touch management might now require more rigorous management. Okay. Then there is the management of derivatives of data, and this is almost a subset of managing AI, the full life cycle of AI, that now you now have features or things like for retrieval augmented or agents or more complex applications in AI. You now have vector embeddings. You also have word embeddings and stuff like that that you have to manage, that are derivatives of data. And you should be asking the question of, do you need to manage it at all? And if you do, how do you manage it? What are the outcomes you are looking for? Is it to minimize risk of use, and also promote reuse and the sharing of these assets as well? And those questions give you the ability to minimize risk, as well as what drives me a lot, the important element of enabling value from your data assets. Okay. Now we explore the opportunities of AI in the areas of data management. So I present the Dharma knowledge areas just to almost inspire us to rethink what AI could be doing in these different knowledge areas and enabling value. It's a point where you see that you look then at an area like data modeling. How could AI give you more value? Or you look at data quality. How can AI drive how you do data quality differently and create value even potentially faster? And I think your guess is as good as mine that what you can do in all of these spaces is limited to your own imagination. Okay. Now I touch on some of the applications of AI in data management itself, which is the core of my presentation. That the first point is similar to every other domain, the productivity of your staff in data management is greatly improved because they can now almost research or have a research assistant by their side to answer questions and help them navigate the complexities of data. So you want your staff to be well versed in using these applications to be able to answer the questions on governance within your organization and also shape governance more quickly than they will previously have done. There is a very interesting application, and we see this already in tooling in the industry, that now you can generate metadata in a very automatic way. Tools like those of Databricks, Unity Catalog, you have Atlan, you have Colibra, and most of the tools now allow you, given the technical column names or structure of your data, you can now generate automatically the at least the first draft of the meaning or the description of your data. And that's quite powerful in scaling your metadata projects. And also very interesting in this space is that you now want to generate metadata that drives not only humans, but machines. And the opportunity that presents, I shared in the previous slide, is also quite significant. Then there is the opportunity to use AI for classification of your data. So the scenario where you are able to pass your data through some of these models to classify very granularly things like PII, things like sensitive information, and other things that you could not do at scale. Now you can do at significant scale and in an automated fashion, of course. There is the ability to generate quality rules or expectations on data in also an automatic way. So today, given, for example, the metadata that you have, I can pass that to an LLM to generate automatically your quality rules. And it's quite fascinating how it works. So if you provide a description, say the this column contains a list of countries, or this column is the number of passengers on a flight, or this column is any column description at all. Today we can pass it to an LLM to provide the rule to guarantee quality of that column. And this allows you to scale the creation of your quality rules, and quite powerful. I think you almost just have to manage it as a first draft and get your stewards and the data management organization and the users to evaluate whether this is relevant and not abusing the power that you have, so to say. Then there is the interesting one of data reduction and obfuscation, that now, because these AI models can detect sensitive data or detect different entities within your data, we can program it to automatically, even in your pipeline, obfuscate sensitive parts of your data, and thus making the rest of the data available for analysis and value creation. There is using AI models for creating conceptual view of your data as well. And these views allow you to have new understanding of the data or common understanding of the data, and your ability to integrate this data across different domains and across your different business units or stakeholders. I could also use some of this technology to even generate some of the documentation I need for governance and policies and the standards that are required. These are things that could take on the order of years or months, nearly 6 months, with the iteration with the rest of the business units. But today, that can happen in the order of days or weeks. Okay. Then the last one that I recall is the ability to use some of this technology as a chat interface into the business that allows the business to ask and self-serve their governance questions. So it removes the governance team or the data protection office from becoming a bottleneck in addressing questions that the rest of the organization has. And at least the first level questions or FAQs can be addressed in this manner. And then you have the mechanism for this chatbot to allow an expert in if it cannot answer the questions that are posed. I end my presentation just recounting some of the benefits you expect. And a lot of these are already existing, and this is more of a recap that, and I touched briefly on some of these, that your AI and ML models performance is improved if you do and account for data management in the right way, in the sense that data itself is equally, if not more important than your sophisticated AI algorithms. Um, and you want to get your data right to drive the outcomes you are expecting in that space. There is also, very importantly, that you want to use this to drive your regulatory compliance. And importantly, is not just the concept of compliance, but you want to comply in a very efficient way. And if you do data management right, you will not be only complying, but you'll be complying in an efficient way. And you can draw from examples of, if you think about things like the different policies that you need to comply with, like the retention policies, for example. If you think about data management right, your retention and the compliance capability is potentially just a technology problem, and you can do that in an automated fashion. If you think about your need to comply with GDPR, for example, for the right to be forgotten, if you did your data management right and your data is not fragmented, where you don't know where your personal data is, and the personal data is all over in your estate, um, you are in a better position to forget a customer giving their request to be forgotten. You are in a better position to treat that if you have your data management right, so that if there's a request to be forgotten, you know where the user's data is, and you can go almost in an automated fashion to remove all the user's footprint in your estate. You can do the compliance efficiently because you are doing it well. And you can also go to the next level of demonstrating compliance to the beauty and amazement of your audit teams. The other thing I probably will touch on briefly would be the notion that data management gives you a competitive advantage. If you do it right, because it is complex, because it is non-trivial, being able to deal with data, technology, people, and the business needs, and doing that in a very good way is not trivial. Achieving that alignment is not trivial. Um, uh, um, Data management gives you a significant competitive advantage. Okay, so that's something you should be aware of. It has measurable ROI as well, and sometimes the ROI is implied, but there are cases where you see actual money in the bank because you are doing data management. One, because your data quality is right, and there are examples where you have addressed information, and you are able to guarantee that your address information is correct, and therefore your users will be receiving their post and not cost money, extra money of return post, for example. And the list goes on. I'll leave this in the slide deck for you to review as well. So I'd like to thank you for your time, and it's been nice sharing my thoughts as well. If you need to reach out to me, you know where to find me, and some of the interesting topics that I am happy to engage in and support your teams with are the topic of data and AI strategy, the things you can do with data science and engineering, as the execution of your data and creating value from your data, and then bespoke training to get your teams to have the awareness and with your own context to be able to derive or create value from data and drive your business processes in new, intelligent, and creative ways. Okay. So thank you, and let's go and do great work together. See you probably online or in another session. Hello, everyone.